Enzo. Oh, this is probably too long for a voice note.
Hey Claire, I know. Save it for the podcast.
Your space for an unfiltered and candid conversation.
Skip the small talk and dive in deep.
Hey, he's Enzo.
She's Claire.
And this is Too Long for a Voice Note.
Welcome,
back.
familia. Welcome to
episode
number 4.
How are you guys?
It's crazy. We're already in the episode number 4.
Crazy.
It's like I feel
Flying
like we
through
started
this season.
yesterday.
I know.
It was just yesterday when we started a new season. And now it's a 4th
Thank
episode.
you so much for all of your positive comments on
Thank you,
episodes
guys.
1 to 3. We've been loving to see it.
Yes, it's so amazing to see, and like thank you for everyone like liking, subscribing, commenting. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to like it. It's really important for us. So like, you know, YouTubers, they always say that, and like podcaster, but it's true, it really helps. So thank you very much. So everyone,
thank you so much for returning.
Podcast
so
all the
little
time.
chitty chatty before we get into my topic this week.
Oh yeah, it's
I was
you
gonna
this
ask
week.
you, are you watching anything good right now on Netflix so we can recommend to our audience? Or on anywhere?
Actually, I'm not watching anything lately.
You haven't actually mentioned anything to me.
Yeah, I haven't, like, I don't know why. Lately I've been really disconnected to me watching stuff. I don't remember the last thing I'm watching. No, I'm not watching anything at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any good films you can recommend?
I think I'm watching like things on YouTube. Like, I think that's where I'm spending a lot of my time if I watch something. I think I have like a few like YouTubers, podcasters that I'm checking. And like, funnily, I was telling you about this like podcast about this guy. We can put the link below. I think it's a really good channel. So he's like, he lives in Bali. He has like a real like a videography and like photography and like all this creative type of stuff chats, and this is a really good podcast. And then I follow another woman. She's Spanish photographer that she moved to Bali as well. She used to live in London for 11 years, but also she moved to Bali and she was in this guy podcast as well. What you watching now?
Well, I've been watching a series of quite good things, I think, at the moment. First of all, I watched a great series called Too Hot to Handle. Have you seen it?
Oh,
it's like a reality.
It sounds familiar.
And it's honestly really good.
Yeah.
That was like, basically, Too Hot to Handle is about a load of really attractive, horny people who are like, they're like, oh, we love having sex, blah, blah, blah. And they like get them all to meet and they're like, oh, I've got my eye on him or I've got my eye on her.
All right.
And then they're told like, oh, it's going to be like, you know, you can have loads of sex.
Okay.
But then they get told, actually, you're on too hot to handle.
Oh, okay.
And if they have sex, they lose money. So there's like a massive prize fund.
Wow.
And if they even kiss, they lose money if they have sex. But then, you know, some of them develop like genuine connections.
Okay, I heard about this show.
And it's quite, I'm not much of a reality gal, but you know, sometimes when like life is busy, life is hectic, you don't want to think, you just like, that's great. And then I watched a really good film last night called Scoop. Which is about I would say it's a very British film.
Okay.
It's actually Netflix. It's with Gillian Anderson.
Oh,
Billie
God,
Piper.
I love her.
Do you know Billie Piper? She was you would probably recognise her, but she's like British, very big here back in the day.
Okay.
But the story is about Prince Andrew and the Epstein scandal and that interview that was done. Do you remember the interview that was done on Newsnight? Because it was only 2019. It's about how they got that story.
Wow. Okay.
And it's actually very interesting.
Okay.
I would recommend it. I think you'd like it.
Put on my list, yeah.
With all that being said, I think it's my topic.
It's your week.
So we're ready for my topic.
I'm curious to say, I don't know, is it something we have spoken?
It's
something we have spoken about my English is like
it's something that we haven't spoken about recently. And actually, we've never had this conversation as friends, actually.
As enemies, yes, but not as friends. It's like, wow.
But I want to talk about crying. I find crying very interesting. There's no particular reason why I'm bringing this up. Well, actually, there is a reason why I'll go into in a little bit.
Well,
so I want to talk about crying because I feel that this topic can go in many different directions. I'm curious to see if we talk about that. One thing that I was very interested to talk about is why is there kind of such a big difference between men and women crying? And actually I found a study that showed that male and female infants didn't show any difference in crying. However, there's a massive sex difference in adults. On average, women cry 2 to 5 times per month, while men cry 0 to 1 times per month. This difference starts in late childhood and is likely due to differences in socialization. So I think that's nothing new. And also, personality is very related to crying. People with high empathy cry more easily in both positive and negative situations than people with less empathy. So I've got a lot more to talk about, but I just want to start here and tell me about your thoughts on crying, your relationships with crying.
I think it's songs about tears now. Like, no.
So how do you feel about crying? Are you a crier? Let's start with that. Are you a crier?
I don't think I'm necessarily a crier, honestly.
You're not a crier.
I'm not a crier.
I mean, I've seen you cry once or twice with me.
Well, I think that's a lot already.
Well, we've been friends for about 6 years.
Exactly, yeah. I think I have a lot of friends that have never seen me cry.
Really?
Yeah, ever.
I feel honoured.
Yeah, you see? Yeah, that's why I say it's a lot. But yeah, I don't think I'm a crier. I don't think I block crying. I mean, not consciously. I don't think I blocked it. But normally, I can feel emotionally moved, but it's a bit difficult for me to get to the tears point. I think I need to be really, really like moved in a way. Even though I have to say, like, I do feel I cry quite easily when it's something related to pets.
Well, that's one time I saw you cry.
You see,
and that was about Lassie.
Yeah. So, and literally, like, the other day, like, my boyfriend was telling me the story, like, his cat, well, his dad's cat is also his cat. The cat, she's very old, and apparently she's not moving a lot now. So she's probably, probably she will die quite soon. And my eyes got so watery. And then we were having like a random conversation. I think we were out and everything. Yeah. And my eye got so watery. I was like, I felt so moved by the fact that the cat was not moving. I was like, oh,
that's so interesting.
So for me, like, also, like, if I watch a movie like, I don't know, Marley and I, Marley and me, and that fucking movie, like, those type of things when are related to animals or pets, it really, I don't know why it moves me so much.
Once again, to go back to this piece of research, researchers have actually looked into people who don't cry that much, and they're saying if tears are so important for human connection, because, just to say, the reason why we cry is to probably get empathy, and it's also the whole stress release thing is actually a myth, but we can talk about that in a little bit. This guy conducted intimate therapy style interviews with 120 individuals and looked to see if people who didn't cry were different from those who did. He found that non-crying people had a tendency to withdraw and described their relationships as less connected. But they also experienced more negative aggression feelings like rage, anger, and disgust than people who cried. So very interesting. I don't know if that is true for you.
For me,
maybe?
No, I don't feel connected at all. That study is bullshit. That guy, he can come back from where he came from. No, I don't feel connected with that at all, honestly.
Okay.
At all, as far as I know, I don't feel like any connection. But I feel like interesting, like, I mean, but I understand where this comes from, because I felt like if you don't cry, it's because probably you're very oppressed, or you're oppressed in things. That's how I see it, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't see it for myself, maybe. Or I don't know, maybe it's not consciously, but I don't feel, I wonder maybe if like the lack of crying or like not wanting to cry is to oppress feelings.
I think that crying is very personal, and I think that actually we have probably we can all think of, we all probably have a relationship with crying in a way, or relationship with expressing emotions. And something that I read was that crying is generally seen, well, it can be seen as kind of like a positive thing for us, but that's not necessarily true. It's positive if the person you're crying with, let's say, responds well to you. So I just wonder if people who maybe don't cry, maybe this is bullshit, but maybe people who don't cry as much have somehow got the message that it's not a good thing to cry, or they've learned along the way best not to cry, that sort of thing.
Let's unpack. I don't know, I'm trying to think of when I was a kid, if I think I never had, from my mom, definitely, I never had that message of like, oh, you are a boy, you don't cry because you're a boy. I think I never got that from my mom. I mean, I don't know, from my grandparents, I mean, it's an Italian grandparents, so probably there was some like toxic Italian messages there about like being a man or something, which I don't really remember. I don't remember being told off for crying, probably. maybe happen, and maybe that's why. But what's for you, like, obviously for you, let's say different, because I think women are allowed to cry.
Yeah, definitely.
Men are not socially, like, they're more oppressed. So.
I think I'm definitely a crier. I will say you've seen me cry
a
number
times. Oh yeah.
I think I can cry through, I think I'm one of those people that cries through frustration and anger.
I think
and sadness, but I think I cry a lot.
I think I have seen you cry from frustration. I think it's like,
definitely. I definitely cry. I think I cry easily. Like, I'm very quick to well up, and I think I'm quick to cry if someone else is crying as well.
What? I think that's when I can cry as well. If someone else is crying, I will cry.
You do cry. Yeah, you do cry.
I can. If someone is getting like a watery eyes, I'm gonna be like, it's like
literally, because it's like, I think you are really empathetic as well. But no, I don't think I ever. And once again, it's different because I am a woman, but I don't think I ever remember like being told don't cry or stop crying or anything like that. And I don't think I was like a particularly cryy kid either. I think I've been more teary as an adult, actually.
Interesting. It's like the weight of life. Fucking weight of life.
I think I remember crying a lot. I think I was a lot more repressed as a child than I am adult, actually.
That's interesting.
Definitely. Actually, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because in January, I cried for the first time at work.
Okay.
Have you ever cried at work? Have you ever cried at work in a meeting with someone? Because obviously we probably all cry. Well, maybe not always, but actually I don't think I've ever been that upset. I've been upset at work, but I haven't ever broken down in a meeting before like I did in January.
Me neither. No, I haven't.
Have you not done that?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
I did that because, again, I felt so frustrated. Won't go into what it is, but felt so frustrated. And I'd been carrying that frustration for like a month, and it was just like this explosion. And it really shocked me. Like, and I've been at my company for years. I know the people that I was crying with for years. But it really actually got me. And I went through such a process of like, I think I definitely came to terms with it in the end, because I actually felt like it was very genuine, like it was a genuine reaction. And also I think it showed how much it was getting to me, what was going on. But it really took me a minute, because I think, you know, we really, especially at work, I think. But then one thing I was going to say was I still get cringe sometimes. Like, I remember recently we were doing like drinks with friends and you gave me a compliment. And I burst out crying in front of like his boyfriend, another friend, like people that I'm so comfortable with. And I started crying and I was so cringed. Do you remember? True, so I do get I love crying and I think it's good. And I never really cringe when other people cry, but I do have a level of shame around it.
Yeah, I think that's it, right? What I was just saying that it's like about like how socially we shame crying. I think because it's so like a vulnerable place, and we are always supposed to be really like tough in front of others to be like protected, right? Because actually I think like when you were telling the story now about like you were like bursting into tears in the middle of this meeting or whatever, like it's kind of like, especially at work, because work environments are so fake, so it's such a weird construct. Like I feel like an office, it's something that it's so surreal and so absurd, because nowhere else we have the behavior that we have in an office. It's such like thing that we create to make it like work for a group of people in a company, whatever it is. So obviously you feel kind of shame because it's not normal to express your emotions.
Totally.
I also feel like more, I feel that more here in the UK, like emotions at work in the UK, that's not a thing. It's like, what the fuck? But actually I think it's really good. Like, I think it's really interesting, and like, I really will appreciate if I'm at work and someone shows emotions, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, you're a human and you actually can empathize with me. You're not a robot. You know what I mean? And I feel like if I have, for example, a manager that expresses emotions, I connect with them straight away, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, we're not here also like it's not like a robotic thing.
Yeah.
So I think that the fact that you felt like that obviously comes from frustration, but I think it's actually like a interesting thing, seeing like how it's not a problem, it's human. Like why we should be like judged or something for crying, which is so natural, right?
It's true.
If you like put it into pieces, like
I think
if you deconstruct, it's like, wow, how society is fucking up with us.
Exactly, because it's sort of like, I think we have this thing of like where and when it's appropriate to cry. And I do think that, you know, I mean, there's like a famous episode in Sex and the City where they're talking about crying at work, and it's sort of like that thing of like being a woman and crying at work is like, is that going to damage how seriously people take me? And that I think didn't happen. I think actually things in my situation improved. And I was crying genuinely. It was, I literally did not want to cry. I could not keep I opened my mouth and I started crying because I was so emotional and angry. But it did actually change things for me.
Interesting.
I think it changed things for me to be like, actually, this is everything that I'm feeling. And I think it changed things for the other people to be like, wow, that's like really,
we didn't know that you were in that place.
And it was completely authentic at the same time.
I think that's interesting because like we normalize laughing, and laughing is always correct. Not always, but most of the time laughing is correct. No, you know, like no one probably will judge you for laughing in the place, but then for crying, which is like an emotional reaction, as like, what's the difference between crying or laughing? Is it still, there are still like emotional reactions, right? Reactions for emotions, for things. But then we demonize the fact of like crying. So it becomes something weak, and it becomes something like it's also linked to women.
It's true.
For some reason.
Do you find
it very strange?
Comfortable when you see men crying?
Actually, I don't know, because I haven't seen a man cry in such a long time. Wow. I haven't seen a man, like, actually, I don't remember the last time I have seen like a man crying.
Do you remember your dad crying?
No, at all.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of my male family members crying.
Yeah, me neither.
Even like in like where you would say like someone dies, even in like a funeral, not even a funeral, I remember a man of my family crying. Like maybe my grandpa, when my grandma passed away, like, but it wasn't like bursting into tears. It was more like, you know, the oppressed type of tears, you know? So it's kind of like, again, like the gender thing. Now thinking about like, like how important cry is. I feel like crying, it's not like I cry often, but the times I cry, I really definitely feel like I needed to. And I felt like, oh, if I didn't cry, how charged I would feel. And I was like, wow, crying is such like, it's something that lasts just a bit, you know. It's not like you're gonna cry. Well, maybe you can cry for hours. Maybe the people that are having something, if it's really, really bad. But you know, like, let's say a regular cry, like you have a situation, maybe you cry for 5 minutes or less, and then you feel so liberated. So I think like if people felt more like less judged and more open to cry, we will feel better, you know, because people have more of an outlet. And like, you know, if we were feeling more allowed to just sit and cry when we need it, without feeling it's something negative, maybe that will make such a difference from all of us, because it's kind of like, oh my God, like that is a release. As laughter is release. But when you're laughing, you're releasing, because
it's normal. Like it's something that we do naturally. And I think you're right. It's sort of like, where does that, and that's kind of like the sad thing for like a lot of straight men, I would say, or a lot of men in general, like where does that emotion go if you're not kind of crying, or if you're not even if you're crying, but if you're not talking about it as well. I think there's always like that thing of like needing to get it out. But I feel like literally like sometimes I just can't hold back the tears. Like they just like literally like flow out of me. Like I'm like, boom, they're there.
Do you have you ever been in a situation, if you don't have to say names or whatever, situation with tears and crying that you feel really awkward about yourself, like you didn't want to be there somehow
because I was crying or they were crying,
the other person was crying?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, it always feels a bit like too personal. I think it's a big deal when you see someone cry for the first time. Yeah, definitely. Like, I think that you reach a new level of intimacy when you cry with someone, a friend, a partner, a family member. So I think it does kind of like not change the dynamic, because it doesn't change the dynamic, but I think it's one of those things that happens and then sort of it is in like the background of like, oh wow, now we have that kind of thing. It's because true. You don't cry with everyone. Because a lot of people I think cry alone. But then when you cry with someone, you know, it's like such a big thing. Interesting. But I think I can think of some romantic
situations where, because to be honest, like I, as like a straight woman, I think, you know, like I'm like, yeah, like super feminist and everything, but I'm not immune from sexism and sexist, like, so I think I've sometimes felt uncomfortable when I've seen like a straight man cry.
Interesting.
To be really honest. And that's my own internalized sexism, because I haven't grown up seeing male father figures crying either. So I think it's like, oh wow, that romantic partner is crying, for example. That's like, you know, that's like, oh wow. I
think it's again going back to the sexism and like the genders and how culturally, because I feel sometimes, and like, for example, thinking about, I don't know, like the gay community, I think it's way more allowed and open to see a gay guy crying.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like, it's more like the space for emotions, and you feel, not everyone, it's not like every single gay guy it's very like empowered and entitled, or like feeling very like empowered their emotions to cry. No, it's not like that. It's not that easy. But I think obviously because it has less of like those layers, all those layers were peeled off. So I think like it can be easier to cry. And I don't, maybe within my friends, I don't know, I don't have a, maybe like, but I've seen like videos or things, and like when it's a gay guy, they're really more open and they can cry and they can be like more available. Well, like I guess a straight man, they won't allow themselves to go there.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's like harder, definitely.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah,
it is interesting, right?
Tears. Like I'm gonna cry right now. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking also like a tears and type of tears, and then we got like the happy tears, right? And like the concept of happy tears, and you know, when people say happy tears, again, because they don't have the judgment of like sadness, it's so like,
that's so true,
a bit celebrated. It's like, oh my god, happy tears,
happy
and it's
tears.
Like, oh yeah, it's so nice, and let's celebrate the happy tears. Happy tears are always welcome. But again, I don't know if it's like maybe like a reaction, like a physical reaction to like negative things and bad things, so we don't want to like confront them. I don't know.
How do you mean? What do you mean?
In the sense of like, that's why we don't really embrace like sad tears, because we want to just push away everything that it's sad.
I think
and,
we
like,
do
bad.
embrace it. I think we do, but I think it's more the association. So I feel like crying is associated with women for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That's become that like ridiculous thing that like has been coming in, and like it's kind of then, because people view or have viewed women as weak, crying is viewed as weak. And I think that something in like a lot of, well, let's take this society for example, I think not showing your emotion is praised. And so crying is such a display of emotion, because something physical is happening. Nothing comes out of you when you laugh. I mean, you can cry happy tears, like we're saying, you can cry with tears, but it's like, it's such a lot when somebody cries, or when you cry, like your whole body is like, you know, doing something, and something is coming out. And
no,
like,
I think one day I would like to do like, you know, this, I don't know if that's a exact name for it, but it's kind of like crying therapies or cry therapies. Have you heard about it? Like,
no.
It's kind of like these places, kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was a long time ago that I heard about this. It's kind of like this, kind of like a group therapy. Let's say it's like a yoga class, let's say, but they are like, the point of it is kind of like to let your emotion flow and cry, and you have like this like instructors, let's say as if it was a yoga instructor or whatever. It's very spiritual, the whole thing. And they kind of guide you to kind of like cry everything and like release.
Wow.
And so everyone can be crying and like releasing all of that.
I'm not sure.
Imagine, we should go.
I don't want to.
They will laugh at the beginning. Yeah, because it's like,
I can't take that seriously.
It's a lot, you know. Imagine if like 5 people crying at the same time. Again, you see, like,
I don't know, this is the problem, because I think that's one thing that I mean, I won't speak for you. I will say you do this as well, but
like, I'm not speaking for you, but you do.
I think that I use humor as a defense mechanism. And I'm definitely somebody that we can have a whole topic about this, but I'm somebody who cringes a lot. And I think that comes from like not being, because I can cringe at myself when I cry with like my best friends in such a safe environment. And I think that, like I definitely put like, oh my God, I feel so fucking shit today, lol. You know what I mean? Because
life is such a shit, nothing is working, but anyway, lol, keep going.
Because I think it's hard for me. I think sometimes I do put like a humor over
and I think in
things.
our group of friends we're a lot like that.
Very sarcastic.
We're very because I think you have to be a bit sarcastic to be like lol, you know. Because also, what can you do? Can you just cry every single day? I don't know. Crying also takes you a lot of energy out of you. Now I think about it.
I went through that phase. I had that phase in my life due to a breakup where I was crying every day, and I thought, I thought never again.
Honestly, I had that as well.
You had that as well.
I had crying a fucking a lot, and it's so ridiculous now. Think about it. It's
when you think about
ridiculous, it's like, oh my god, such a waste of energy. No, but
I think you have to go through that.
I'm happy that released that, because I think a lot of people, when they're sad, they don't cry as well. That's the other part, and you keep all of that inside of you. So it's kind of like, it's good to release the shit out of yourself.
I think it's good though, because we all have these different moments in our lives, sometimes where we're crying more than others, other moments sort of thing. And I think that's kind of like okay. Yeah. And like I think it's good to like allow things to kind of like move through the body sort of thing. Like nothing should stay trapped. When was the last time you cried? Like properly cried?
Properly cried. I don't remember.
If you wouldn't mind sharing.
No. I wouldn't mind. No, honestly, I don't remember the last time I really properly cried. I cried about the cat, but I wasn't properly cried. And like some movies, of course, but I think I don't. Which I was about to say, I'm really happy that I don't remember, because again, like the connection with crying and like feeling like bad. Which again, I think we should feel fine. I feel more fine with it. Yeah, exactly. Like This is kind of like the program that we have, right? Because I was thinking like, I'm happily haven't cried in such a long time, and it's kind of like, well, maybe it would be good to cry sometimes.
Exactly, and because also you might not have been crying because of sadness. You might have been crying because of anger or happiness or something.
Honestly, I don't remember the last time that I really like cry hard. What about you? You feel like you cry like really apart from the work meeting?
Oh yeah, but that was January. I mean, I cry regularly.
Like, that's an old bitch. Like.
The last time I cried was 2 weekends ago at the Mahmood concert.
Oh, true. Oh my god, true.
That was the last time I cried.
I was a moment that was welling up but not crying.
I was like...
You were crying a lot.
I was crying a lot.
Bless you.
I was so moved. But I'm not sad. I'm moved by how amazing he is and what the songs mean to me.
Yeah, I think
like that.
I think that's really important to be. I think as a takeaway from this conversation with you, I think I'm gonna take that with me. Like, really allow ourselves to be deeply moved about things, because that's like part of being alive, right?
Definitely,
like,
and also I think it's like, I don't know. I feel like crying is so interesting because I find it very personal, but also shared. Like that moment for me, crying about the Mahmood concert was, I wasn't like looking at them when I was crying, but I was getting that emotion that I was feeling with them, and then I also shared that with my friends, and that was like an unforgettable gig for me, not only because I absolutely adore that man, but also because I was there with my friends, and it's like, I don't know, and I just felt so much, and like that's beautiful. I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to keep that for yourself and not like be so cold about everything, or so like, oh yeah, whatever. It's just like really feel things. I think it's important. It's connected to just how much we are willing to feel stuff. I think so, and show. I think show exactly, feeling and showing it. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the topic, love. It was really interesting conversation. I will definitely think about tears and like maybe next time I'm gonna be like, Claire, after that conversation I cry so fucking much. I'm gonna create like a crying monster. Like, I went to a crying session. Every week here I'm gonna be like, Claire, you're gonna be like, for fuck's sake, go back to your normal self, bitch. Anyway. Well, guys, let us know. Are you a crier? Would you say you're a crier? Yeah. When's the last time you cried? Maybe let us know. And why? Yeah. Why? If you have something that you cry regularly, like is there always something that gets you? Yeah, like for me, for the pets or the dogs and the cats dying, for example. Fuck that. Yeah. So let us know if it's something for you like that really gets you, and like share with us, please. Exactly. That would be really cool. And well, thank you guys so much for listening. See you on episode 5. Yeah. See you next week. Bye, guys. See ya.